Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am Faith, of course, the Divine Faith, uh, chucking along on this astrology journey, I guess, if we want to call that. But either way, this has been requested actually a few times. So this is the relationship, or this would be the relationship in practice chart of Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez. Now we know that this relationship was a many moons ago, but the thing is, a lot of people still, for some reason, want to, put these two together as of right now in terms of still wanting them to find a way to work this out. But I haven't looked at the chart exactly before clicking play or record on this video. This is actually my first time looking at this chart, but already off of the bat, I mean, look how many squares they have. And they have, I believe they have a couple of grand crosses. Okay, so maybe detrimental in some sort of a manner, because look, we have Chiron connecting to Pluto, Pluto connecting to Saturn, Saturn connecting to, looks like Mercury. But then the second grand cross is Saturn connecting to Venus. And look, both of those elements are in the eighth house. Okay. So we know the eighth house is, of course, a house of death. We know that, but it's a house of, and they're a Libra rising. It's interesting. It's a house of transformation, pretty much. And all those planets are, well, it looks like, I can't tell if Venus is in Taurus or Gemini. It's kind of hard to tell on that one. Oh, it's in the very first beginning of Gemini. Okay. And actually, let me turn this down. Okay. It's at the 0 degree of Gemini, but nonetheless, okay. It's like they have an eighth house stellium pretty much. And it looks like that their sun, combined sun and Mercury, are sitting right on top of each other in this house of transformation, in this house of sex, in this house of secrets, occult. What else is in the eighth? Doctor. Okay. So, I mean, possibly, whenever these two were together, I wouldn't imagine that they were the healthiest. And we're not probably talking about in terms of like toxicity, I guess. I'm talking about healthiest in terms of your actual physical health. Okay. That may have actually been a sore spot, or that may have been a troublesome spot whenever it pertains to these two's connection. Okay. Saturn in the fifth house can be a little bit of a bore, to be honest, because you may not necessarily know how to have fun, or your idea of fun could definitely go against the general public's idea of fun. Some people may possibly call you a party pooper, or it may just be hard for you to like let your guard down. But maybe in some sort of a manner, I don't know. I haven't looked into the planets or degrees, but in some sort of a manner, this may be a relationship where it got to a point where it just became way too forced. Trying to force yourself to do things, or trying to force yourself to be a certain type of way that goes against, I don't know, your intuition, that goes against your body. It just feels like, I said, at the end of the day, it's almost like experimentation. And I hate to say that, but in a way, when it pertains to their relationship, I sense possibly a lot of experimentation that the two of them may have went through together, because, and maybe it was trying to, who knows, fit in, or maybe it was trying to combat this Saturn fifth house, where people may say, oh, you're so boring, all this, all that. So for some reason, then you think that you have to prove something, but that can be dangerous. And that's why I said it's like an experiment to me. You're trying things to see what works. You're trying things to see what's fun, but it feels like it's more so peer pressure, other people trying to push you to try things. Okay. We also know that, I believe Saturn in the fifth house can serve as some sort of maybe restriction or blockage in some sort of manner when it pertains to children. Okay, so it may be like less children, like literally you may have one and done. Okay. Or it could just be, there may possibly be health issues that may, restrict you from possibly having kids. You may not necessarily have them, or you may just decide, I don't want kids, at all, because you just don't necessarily want to deal with responsibility, because Saturn is responsibility. Okay. So this also, they may have also kind of just been like, I really don't want to have kids with you, because, again, we may have a couple where if they would have stayed together, I doubt that they would have grown up. Possibly the same things that they may have been doing at like 13, 14, 16, 17. They may have still been doing it well into their 30s or 40s. Okay. Because like I said, there's this wheel that they're on of, let's experiment. Let's do this. Let's do that, which can definitely be unhealthy. And you don't necessarily know what you may walk away with. You may walk away with, maybe something that you can't get rid of, or you may walk away in a very beaten up state because you're not taking care of your health. You're not prioritizing, your body. You're just going, and you're not realizing that, oh my God, like, I am tearing myself up from the inside out. And possibly both of them did this collectively. So we're going to take a look at the composite. I'm not going to make this super long, but first I just want to take a look at Selena Gomez's chart. We already looked at Justin Bieber's chart because I did the reading between, on him and his wife, Haley. But Selena was born on the 22nd. So is that the last day of Cancer? Almost. Well, yeah, that is the last day of Cancer because Leo starts on the 23rd of July. And so oddly enough, she is a late degree sun in Cancer, but she also, when we break down the day that she was born, oh, well, never mind, that's sun. Because I'm about to say, well, probably because I'm looking at these double twos, and twos are moon energy. But if we combine this together, we have number 4. So we have sun energy. So her sun in Cancer in the 12th house energy may stick out quite a bit. And let me make sure her sun is in the 12th, because you see how all this stuff is just jumbled up right there. It's kind of hard to read. So let me scroll down. I'm pretty sure her sun's in the 12th, but just want to double check. Where is it? Yes, her sun is in the 12th house at the 8th degree of Cancer. Okay, so let's scroll back up. So her Cancer sun may literally shine through quite a bit. And we know with it being in the 12th house, so we can already say off of the bat, even when we were just looking at her birth chart from the beginning, possibly very private. I want to say covert. I don't know why I want to say like an operative. I mean, I'm not saying, but maybe we can even have somebody who may be good when it pertains to like just being very discreet. So maybe even possibly be somebody who could be suited for like, maybe a spy, or maybe like, FBI or something like that. Very discreet type of energy. But we also know that the 12th house, like we talked about before, is bed pleasures, it's your subconscious, is hospitals. So already in the sun rules over, like, let's say your teens. This is just my opinion. I take it as every like decade of your life is ruled by the planet associated with it. So for example, we know 1 and 4 in numerology is sun, right? So your teens, your 40s, sun energy. Okay. So we can say during those particular age periods, you need to study your sun, see where it's doing, see what it's doing, see what house it falls in. Again, this is just my opinion. This is just my theory. It can be incorrect. And then when we go into our 20s are ruled by the moon. Can't you see why, they're just like, stop trying to have it figured out in your 20s. You could possibly see why they say that, because it's very moon energy, because it's very likely you're going to change to something different once you hit your 30s or your 40s. You can't really depend on your 20s to make you could maybe to make super concrete decisions, because you may change your mind unless you have a moon that is exalted or at home or something like that. But then we're not talking to you, but we're talking to us people that have it debilitated or in fall, or, the moon is just there. You're kind of just like, what do I do? And then we roll into our 30s, which is ruled by 30 decade Jupiter. Same thing. Look at your Jupiter, study that. So Selena Gomez, she's in her 30s now, right? So now even though her Jupiter is at fall, the thing I've noticed and that we've talked about with the charts that we've looked at, we've noticed that a lot of these influencers or celebrities have like Jupiter in fall, which is odd, but maybe it's not. Because maybe with Jupiter being in fall, maybe it makes you possibly maybe more aware of how shit can possibly go sideways when it pertains to Jupiter things. Or maybe that Jupiter in fall possibly makes you maybe work harder because you know it's not necessarily going to come easy to you. I don't know. But I've just noticed that. Even if you go back, a lot of those charts that I did have it, like I said, in fall, Capricorn or Virgo or Gemini. So it's odd. A lot of them aren't married either. So that's another thing. And that's another thing as well. She may not get the benefit of a husband. She may, or her husband will be very possibly questionable character. Possibly. But anyway, with her being in her 30s, she's going into pretty much like her second house type of energy. So money is to be made. Who knows what she's possibly going to dig up. We know the second house is your voice, right? She may put out, I don't know if she's going to put out 3 albums in her 30s. She may. But she's going to be using her voice more in some sort of, I wouldn't even be surprised if she narrates something, possibly, maybe in her 30s. Now, I haven't looked at the degree, which we know that matters, but either way. So her son, I was going to say, with her son being in her 12th house, we may have a situation where her teens were possibly a period of time where health issues were just running rampant. And maybe some of it was her own doing. Especially because I think I don't know how long these two dated. I'm not necessarily sure whenever they met. But either way, okay. So, and we know sun is tied to what? Like entertainment, is tied to leadership, is tied to politics. Sun, we know, is tied to the ego. But remember, I talked about it before, how your sun, just based off of what I've been reading, how your sun can be somewhat of a blockage. Now, yes, it's in Cancer. So we know Cancer is about the home. We know Cancer is about women. We may have somebody here where if she has female friends, it may just be 1 or 2 and they may be friends for like a long period of time. But with her son being in the 12th house in Cancer, and we are looking at this in a way of a blockage, I don't really expect her to become your friend, to be honest. If you are a woman, she may possibly be more for the other team, and not in that way. She may just possibly be more for hanging with the guys. That may be her thing, because her blockage here may be she may not necessarily trust women. I know I said females, some people are picky about that word, but females. Either way, so she may be, that may possibly be a sore spot for her, and maybe good reason, or maybe there is no good reason for her kind of pushing women to the side. I don't know, but we know Cancer is about the home. Home may be she may not really have a home, not an actual dwelling that she lives in, but a home, a place where she feels like it's truly home to her. Like this energy of possibly maybe always feeling lost. Okay. But I can't remember. I think there was a 12th house placement that Justin Bieber had or something like that. Either way, what else? The moon is tied to the public, right? General public. So, and we know Cancer, general. So that may be another thing here as well. She may, her blockage could be in a way like, trying to hide from the general public, or it could be the opposite. You're trying to hide too much from the general public that it makes it difficult for them to get behind you. Maybe. Okay. And it looks like that her sun is actually squaring her moon. Her moon is in Aries. And what's the opposite of Aries? I don't know if moon in Aries is fall debilitated. I don't really think it is. Can't remember. But her sun and her moon are not in harmony with one another. So, she may possibly, or maybe she started dealing with her emotions possibly at a young age. Maybe her teens turn into drugs, because we know that's in 12th house, that may be how she processes her emotions, but it's not necessarily good. I mean, I don't know why, energetically speaking, I'm kind of like getting this vibe of like, hysterical crying, and it's just like throwing a vase, like she's throwing something, or she's just breaking down. I don't know if she used to, mhm. I don't know if she used to do that, but I don't know. For some reason, I'm feeling like that may have possibly happened. I hope not. But very dark. It gets very dark, I feel like, in her world, because of lack of harmony. Now, therapy, probably could very well help her work through this. Okay. But where she can go whenever her emotions are like that is not good. It's very haunting, maybe in some sort of manner. It's scary. And maybe she attracts 12th house type of people to her, because maybe they are kind of like a mirror, trying to show her like, look, this is kind of like what you look like in a way too. It's not exactly how I'm being, but it's kind of like how you're looking like as well. So, that's just part of growth. But this could possibly be an issue, okay, for her when it pertains to finding that balance. If we're talking about emotionally speaking, she may have a difficulty with that. I don't know if maybe she feels like women try to manipulate her. That may possibly be her reason, or that may not actually be a good reason at all. It may be something that she's made up in her mind, because again, like I said, 12th house is subconscious. So, she may even be somebody who possibly always thinks somebody's out to get her, maybe specifically women, maybe. Anyway, I've talked enough about that. She's just getting out of her Saturn return. And she has Saturn in the 7th house. So it would probably be beneficial for her to wait till she's much older. Because then at that point, she's worked out the kinks within herself in terms of what she needs in a relationship. 42, honestly, may be the time whenever she actually gets into a serious relationship that may possibly be marriage. But those Saturn people, Saturn on the 7th house, whether it be Capricorn or Aquarius, there's some difficulty there when it pertains to relationship. Okay. But even if you somehow, some way find somebody in terms of what you're looking for, it still may take some time. So it may be like a while before something clicks and be like, okay, I think I can deal with this here, But I think they said I think I've seen astrologers or somebody say it may be more beneficial for you to wait until after your first Saturn return for you to, settle down. Okay. Anyway, so let's look at their composite. We're just going to look at a few things and then I'll be done. Once it loads, it'll be here in a second. But either way, so I kind of looked at it a little bit prior to me kind of like looking at her chart. Hold on. Justin Bieber is born on the what? I forgot the day. He's born on the 1st. Oh, sun. I didn't think about that. So he has what? Sun in Pisces in the 3rd. She has, so sun to sun energy, clash. It's like symbols, honestly. Okay. And maybe in some sort of manner, they may have possibly felt like that even together, like your just head is ringing from the clash, the clashing, the constant clashing. Okay. Anyway, so as we can see, they have their composite moon, and it's good that we have their exact birth time. We have their composite moon in Cancer. Okay. So we know moon is at home in Cancer. So we know, and we also know moon is the mind, Mercury is the intellect. So in terms of how they're processing their emotions, okay, they're processing it in a very Cancerian way. They're trying to feel it through. But let's be clear, just because the moon is in Cancer doesn't necessarily mean that you got that all figured out. Because sometimes it may be you're just possibly too emotional to where it's getting in the way of you, processing it the way you need to, so that it can get resolved properly. Because, you may possibly just be focusing too much on how I feel, because that's exactly what Cancer is. That's the motto. I feel, I feel, I feel. Okay, yeah, that's fine. You can feel all you want to, but how do we solve the issue? Then they may look like a deer in the headlights. Like, I don't know. I can just tell you how I feel. Like, okay. Okay. But either way, so how they are as a couple is seen by their ascendant. And as we can see, they have Libra on the ascendant. Okay. Okay. Where is their Venus? Oh, yeah, I talked about that. Their Venus is in the 8th house. Now, it's pretty close to almost going in the 9th house. Okay. But either way, and it actually looks like their Venus is making an aspect to their ascendant. So how they are as a couple. Okay. Let's take a look at this Gemini 0 degrees, actually. And with that being in the 9th, let me go back to my notes, actually. Where is it? Oh, I forgot. I meant to put this chart in the other system so I can look at where their Juno and stuff is placed and all that stuff. But, I did read the other day. I don't know if this is the website I'm using now or somewhere else, where they were talking about how Mars on the angle, if we're talking about like composite, is not necessarily good. I'm assuming, I don't think Mars necessarily does that great on an angle in a composite chart. I can't remember why it said. I have to find that. So angles would be 1st, 4, 7, and 10. Okay, but anyway, so composite 1st house in Libra. So, the composite 1st house in Libra is the most natural position for a relationship of any kind. Even if you're enemies, you can come across really well together and seem good together. You see why everybody is kind of just like, why won't these two get back together? Always trying to put these two back together. It's right here with their composite 1st house being in Libra. You may seem like a charming couple, diplomatic and aware of your surroundings, and avoid fights as much as you can, preferring compromise. But this can lead to problems and resentment if you're not being open with one another, and indecision can also be an issue. Remember, I talked about here with the Cancer moon, where I said if they're so consumed, and they may have possibly gotten too consumed caught up in the fact of I feel this, I feel that, and you're not switching that over and finding an intellectual way where you guys can come together to fix the issues, it could possibly get out of hand. Okay. But for the most part, as we can see with the planet of the general public being at home, of course, a lot of people want these people to be together because they got moon in Cancer. They have Libra ascendant on the 1st house. So everybody is like rooting for them, Okay. But let's see. So composite. Oh, they have Jupiter in the 1st. Okay. Okay. I don't know where I read this, but I think there was something about how Jupiter in Libra can produce like somebody big. I think Cardi B has that. Michael Jackson had that, I believe. I could be wrong. I think Donald Trump has that. There's a couple of big people that have Jupiter and Libra. So I'm not necessarily sure how that correlates, but I'm still learning. We'll have to talk about that later. But anyway, composite Jupiter in the 1st. You can greatly enjoy this relationship partnership, and you can feel good when you're together. You may have more opportunities together than you do apart, and you can work together to expand your lives in new ways and have new experiences. You can have a more optimistic outlook together, and you can open up doors together that may not open alone. Opportunities. Everybody is complimenting you on how great of a couple you are. They think you guys are this. They think you are that. I mean, just an outpour of compliments that come on from the public, and people possibly just want to give them money for their relationship because the 8th house is other people's resources, is other people's money. So that just goes along as well with their Jupiter in the 1st. How you do better together than you do apart with Jupiter here. But then you have your Venus in the 8th. So it's almost just like, we know Venus is love. It's almost like people just giving you things because of the fact that they want you together or they like you together, Okay, hold on. Oh yeah, I need to go to the Venus in the eighth. Hold on, composite eighth house. Composite eighth house in Taurus. Let's take a look at that. So when Taurus is the eighth house in the composite chart, you may hold on to what you have together for a long time, taking your time with making decisions about what to do with your resources and waiting until you're confident. You may want to devote resources to things that you feel are of value or will increase security in the relationship. In a romantic relationship, physical intimacy may be more of a slow burn and it may be delayed. That kind of makes sense, honestly. I think that does make sense. That slow burn thing. Now let's see about the Venus in the eighth. Where are you? An intense connection and a romantic relationship can be extremely passionate physically and emotionally. It can be difficult to have a casual relationship with this placement and you take the relationship very seriously. Sometimes you can be a little bit obsessed with one another and you need to make sure you're not getting lost in the relationship. You may find it easier to balance the power in the relationship between you, but you can also enjoy fighting a little too much sometimes. I have a feeling that I think somebody broke these two up. I'm not really getting the vibe that this was like a mutual decision. I don't know if it may have literally been planned that way, where somebody is making plans behind the scenes to break these two up. But just based solely off of the energy that we already have talked about, it just seems like it's too good, in a way, when it pertains to the two of them being together. But for some reason, I have a feeling that, again, with their first house lord being in the eighth, okay, they also do have their 12th house lord in the eighth, okay, and it looks like they have their 11th house lord in the eighth, as well as their yeah. So they have first, 12th, and 11th house lord in the eighth. Okay. Publicist, somebody from their community. Okay. I just feel like somebody interjected, in my opinion. Speaking of their 12th house, they have 12th house in Virgo. Well, now we know Virgo is the healer. Okay. But we also do, okay. It's like, it feels like a little bit of manipulation to me, but it feels like one of those things where one of them is hanging around, like maybe like the wrong crowd or the wrong people, and they're getting in their head. Whoever the wrong person is, whoever the bad influence is getting in the other person's head, and then they're dragging it back into their relationship. But it feels like it was calculated to be that way. Like, fill his head up with whatever and then go back and drop it on him. And once you do that, now you're creating issues in your relationship. Okay? Because, maybe in some sort of a way, we can see maybe the eighth house is kind of hidden as well. Well, maybe it is because, you're not really going around saying, telling the world every time somebody gives you money. Is normally something that you want to keep to yourself. It's normally something that you want to keep private, So where is that? Where'd it go? So with their 12th lord in the 8th, they can dig into one another to gain more understanding of each other than you may have with anyone else. Communications between them can be intense, rarely light, and you do have to watch for having some epic fights. Remember what I just said? Somebody's it's almost like a snake. I don't even know. Or somebody is like, being negative or being somewhat of like a Cancer. And then they're like rubbing off on you in the worst way. And then now you're having issues in your relationship that possibly weren't there before. But like I said, it seems like they're wanting it to happen that way. Kind of just like, you two can't be together. But I mean, their 8th house of sex is Fool. So, there may have been some possibly wild escapades with these two or possibly 3, maybe. But with Mercury in the eighth, when they don't see eye to eye, you may try to dominate and control the conversation, but you need to be more open. Okay. But remember what I said before at the beginning, it's one of those things where it's kind of just like a lack in growth in some sort of a manner. Like, even if they were still together in their 30s or 40s, it's almost kind of like the same thing. And that may be another thing here as well. The spiritual growth, the soul growth is important. And if that is not happening in this particular connection, it makes it difficult for this to move forward completely, even if you try to come back together. Sun, moon is making an aspect to one another, even though they have a combined sun and Taurus. I would probably say that these two did genuinely love each other. They possibly maybe still do. Because it also looks like that their sun is making an aspect to their Neptune and their Uranus, and their moon is making it as well. So these two really did truly love each other. It's a completely different vibe than Justin Bieber and Hailey, where it's almost like they love each other, but they have to grow into it. These two, maybe it was like love at first sight, but I do feel like that those two did genuinely love each other. But I still stand by my feeling that somebody ruined this relationship from the outside in. But I don't know. It almost feels like, I don't know, if somebody like pressed the button, like, okay, I have a mission for you to do. These two cannot be together. I don't know why. I mean, I really don't know why. It's interesting because I can't really think of a reason why that would be the case, but who knows why people do what they do. Let's see. Oh, I haven't really looked at any degrees. I'm probably going to have to pause this and come back to it. Oh, I guess I'll look at Libra ascendant. What's the degree? 3 degrees. Libra ascendant is on a Gemini degree. Okay. These two, I wouldn't even be shocked if they could have, maybe at one point, they could have possibly felt like best friends, because they may have possibly just talked about maybe a lot of stuff. Okay. But like I said, the issue that we see here is just the lack of growth, where are we at? Oh, 3 degrees Libra. This is their ascendant. So Libra 3 degrees, it says privation, fairness, lack of opportunity, misfortune, difficult, troublesome life. Oh yeah. Yep. And you see, I kind of was saying that anyway. And you see, like I said, how their first lord, because Venus rules over Libra, we can see how their first lord is in the 8th, like I said, of other people's resources, other people's money. It's one of those things. If you're in somebody's back pocket and they say, and if this person says you can't be with them, you can't say no to them. They pay your bills. They helped you do this. They possibly helped you do that. Venus is in Gemini. I think it was like a publicist maybe, or maybe like a producer or somebody that one of them worked really, really closely to. Maybe they saw them as like a brother or a sister, but they really snaked you in the end. They really snaked you in a manner in terms of setting it up to where you guys break up. It's pretty bad. So I don't know who it is that is surrounded by snakes, but whoever this snake person is, yeah, they got you. But as far as, again, with their ascendant being on a 3rd in terms of how they are as a couple, it would still be difficult, despite what I'm saying, it would still be difficult for them to make this situation work. Oh, maybe that's why they had to break up, because it was cutting into somebody's career. Opportunities may have been slipping through their hands, and whoever the snake was kind of just like, well, shit, now my money is suffering. So this has to go, maybe. For some reason, I'm hearing Scooter Braun. That's my opinion, but it's probably wrong. That's fine. Very snake behavior. I'm going to pause this because I have to go, and I will be back to finish this. Okay, honestly, I forgot where I left off, to be honest. I completely forgot. I drew a blank. I think I was talking about their ascendant. Oh yeah. So with their ascendant, like I said, being on that, particular degree of misfortune, difficulties, troubles, even if, I talked about the person interfering, even if, it wasn't that person or somebody different, it would have been kind of hard, even though, this ascendant is favorable in a manner for their composite chart. The degree is what would make this situation kind of hard in terms of endurance. Okay. Now, let me take a look at their degree of the Mercury. Now, again, because the 12th house would be Virgo, okay? Their 12th house Lord is in the 8th. So let's look at the degree of their 12th house Lord. And Mercury is in Taurus. So 20 degrees Taurus. Let's take a look. So the 20th degree of Taurus says, anticipation, silent, cautious assault. Remember I said whenever I was looking at Selena Gomez's chart and I was talking about that sun in the 12th, and I was like, I kind of get this meltdown type of energy and it's just like throw the vase, So hopefully these two didn't pass licks, but unless there was some physicality possibly going on during intimacy or sex, hopefully not. Hopefully it wasn't a situation where somebody was doing that in a manner because, I don't know, maybe using that as an excuse. Kind of just like, I'm just doing it because I'm in the mood, but maybe they're really trying to get you back because they're not able to do it for real, if that makes sense. So maybe some little bit of underhanded stuff going on here, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, physical abuse. I mean, any type of abuse is terrible, but it may have been tied to emotionally speaking, but I think this is maybe more so mentally speaking. So you see how as we get deeper into like the degrees in the chart, we have these, I guess, good things going, like moon in Cancer, Libra on the ascendant, stuff like that. But then as you get, and then we have sun and moon and sun and Neptune and Uranus, but then as, like I said, we get deeper into the degrees, we see the little things that starts to eat away at this particular connection. But to me, it kind of feels like somebody wanted it to end faster than what it did. But outside of that, possibly going through like mental torture, or who knows, maybe jealousy. Because I think there was one of those aspects that I read about jealousy in there as well. Maybe jealousy, possibly tied to, you feel some type of way because they make more money than you. Or like I said, that person that I talked about that could have gotten in the way in the middle, or who could have like snaked their way to try to end this connection. They could even possibly have been jealous. Okay. But yes, that is an issue, because it also looks like, I think Mercury and the sun are on top of each other. Sun. But remember I talked about this in Miley Cyrus's and Liam's chart, where I said Mercury and sun sitting on top of one another can be difficult, because it's almost just like you feel like the air is being sucked out of you from the sun. It's too much. It's like it's way too close of an aspect. It's way too close of a conjunction, almost feeling like you can't necessarily breathe. So that's why I said jealousy. Or I think one of the aspects that we talked about was obsessive. So we can see that. And shit, maybe even, I hate to say it, maybe somewhat stalkerish. And this may possibly be things that maybe came out whenever they maybe ended things, or this could be something that comes out as time goes on. As I was riding in the car, I was thinking about this particular chart. I was like, you know what? This may be one of those particular relationships where it's like your first love, but it's not the love, if that makes sense. Some of you are not with the first person that you fell in love with. And you may look back on it now and be like, wow, I was in love, but something about it was just so wrong. It just didn't necessarily fit. Or even if it wasn't so wrong, it's still the manner of the lack of growth. you're going here and it feels like they're trying to stay here, So we have those type of dynamics in a way when it pertains to Justin and Selena. I already said it before. I even got into the chart. I said lack of growth. And now that I see that the sun is sitting right on top of Mercury, and I would say reprimand, but we wouldn't necessarily see the person reprimanding them, because I don't necessarily think it would be out in the public. Not like that. Like you may see maybe bits and pieces of it, like maybe something snarky. You know how that snarky stuff goes. It may be something snarky that the public may see, but you may not really see what truly is happening when it pertains to maybe the mental or emotional I guess assault. I mean, allegedly. I'm not saying that that's actually was what was going on. Okay. But, conflict, the way they dealt with conflict, I don't necessarily think it was healthy, but we got to think about the dynamic that these are like kids, And like I said before, even if they were older, the mentality is still stuck in that of a child. Hence why it makes sense now why the chart, I see the chart the way that I did when it came to Justin and Haley, because that growth that lacks here is there, and that's important. Even if that intenseness of love, first love, is not there, it doesn't matter. It's about the growth in a way, which is why it kind of fits. Which is why I was kind of just like, hopefully those two try to make it work, because that's what's important. That's what the soul needs. It needs growth. It doesn't need this bullshit, pettiness, childish. We don't need that. Where you look up 20 years later and you're just like, wow, we're still fighting about stuff from day one. We're still talking like we're kids in high school, and we're like 50. Who the hell wants to sit through that? And maybe, like I said before, about how somebody may have possibly stepped in and kind of pushed it more in the direction of it's time to break up, because maybe for them, they kind of saw it there as well. Like, this is not going to work. You're not growing up. So it may have turned into, okay, we need to get as much as we can get, and then we're out of here. I would hate for that to be the case, but maybe. So, and then of course, we have, Saturn is destiny, right? Yes. Saturn is destiny. As you can see, it's in the 5th house of publicity. Okay. Entertainments, concerts, fame, really, because 5th house is, normally tied to Leo. But as we can see, famous couple. Yes, we got that. But power dynamics are, an issue. And remember how I said I was picking up in Justin Bieber's chart, I said, I think he might be quite traditional. That may have started to sink in. So you may get to a point where, even though you have all these great things, remember how it said Venus in the 8th, it's a slow burn. The flame starts to die very slowly, but eventually, that candle's going to burn out. So it's one of those things where it may seem like you wake up and I just can't stand your ass. That's kind of the way it kind of feels here. So rather, they were going to be broken up by somebody else, or this is going to happen. But eventually, I don't necessarily think that these two were going to last. Because at the core, it's not something that you need in order to become who you need to be. Now, like I said, who knows what the hell they did in the midst of their relationship? Because I do feel like there's a lot of experimentation going on, honestly. And they also have Mars. I just realized they have Mars and Aries in the 7th house. So for some reason, maybe for them, something about how the way that they fight or have conflict, for some reason to them, they may think it's like healthy. Hopefully they didn't have a therapist that was just like, yes, this is healthy. Like, no, what terrible advice. It depends on how you're fighting. Yeah, I guess, but this comes down also to, it's so weird how I said, it kind of gives me first love. And look, they have Mars and Aries, and we know Aries is about being the first, and then they have Jupiter and Libra. In my opinion, I would probably say somebody also wanted this relationship to go deeper than what it was. And that was possibly what they were hanging on to, whether it be Justin or whether that be Selena. But either way, number one, like I said, somebody around them wasn't going to allow that to happen. And number two, even if that person didn't exist, it wasn't going to happen. it was going to be, in a way, I feel like it would possibly be too difficult for it to expand, maybe because of selfishness, kind of just like, that's not what I want. Or, it could be one of those things where even if you're with somebody for a long period of time, or I don't know, I mean, I'm not a guy, so I'm not sure, but it could be one of those things where even though you're with somebody for a long period of time, it don't necessarily mean I want to marry you. I just, I like it here, but I don't necessarily know if I like it here enough to put a ring on it. However, the other person is really wanting that to happen. So it's just disappointment at the end of the day. Okay. So, and then I'm going to actually look at the degree that the 8th house, it looks like the 8th house is in Taurus, but man, that line right there, maybe it's late degree Aries. I'll have to see. 8th house. Okay, 0 degrees Taurus. I'm like, man, it's getting close. So let's look at the 0 degree of Taurus, actually. Oh, look at that. Happiness in marriage, artistic, beauty, self-defense, self-preservation. But it goes back to what I said anyway. I still stand by what I said. Wow, we have Venus. How long were they together? Because now I just realized they have Venus and Saturn. I think I said it before, but I really just realized that just now. Too shifty, too many changes, too conflicting. Something. Unless somebody was, unless somebody was having a relationship with someone like older. I'll have to look into that in a second. But either way, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, like I said, I still stand by my original statement where I said there's like this energy here where somebody wants to expand, but the other person is just like, and let's look at I don't think I looked at Gemini 0 degree. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. Security, prosperity, friendly, success, protected by, look at that. What is I talked about? Protected by someone kind. But I kind of said that. So, and you see how this Venus pretty much has all squares except for the ascendant. But Venus is squaring Chiron in Leo. Venus is squaring Saturn in Aquarius, which Saturn is technically considered at home. Venus is sitting opposite a Scorpio Pluto in the 2nd house. Remember what I said? Somebody is like, it's like you have to listen to the boss. I pay your bills. I can take control of your livelihood. So if I say that gotta go, they gotta go. I don't care if you love them. You see, and that hurts too. Instead of just letting this naturally phase out, because if you let it naturally phase out, then the chaos won't be so all over the place, But when you don't let it naturally phase out, then there's just chaos. There's back and forth. There's this, there's that. It's too chaotic because you didn't let it naturally play out the way it was possibly supposed to. You're trying to intervene. You're trying to interject. That's what makes this difficult. Because to me, this seems like a connection that needed to phase itself out. Whatever lessons and things like that they need to go through, you need to allow them to go through that on their own, because how else are they supposed to learn? Because this feels like, a bunch of freaking lessons that's supposed to help you do better when it pertains to your next relationship. But instead, it leaves you like scarred. So now, even moving on, you're still stuck in this type of dynamic because you have questions. You're just like, well, I don't understand why it was this way. I don't understand why it was that way, So, yes, but that whole protected by someone is very interesting, how I said something about that anyway. But nonetheless, so what else do we want to look at? I guess we could take a look at their 4th house. So the length and success of this relationship. Would you look at that? Saturn in Aquarius, in the 5th house. But like I said, another thing as well. Saturn squaring Mercury can be one of those placements where your mouth can get you in trouble. And I kind of talked about that anyway up here in the 8th house when I said, hopefully is no type of abuse, but maybe mentally speaking, or emotional abuse may have became a part of this particular situation. And maybe the person saw that and they're stepping in. They're just like, okay, I'm just trying to protect them because that is my investment, or that's my friend, whomever. But like I said, it's one of those things where you have a friend and they are in a relationship and the relationship is bad, okay? And it's chaotic, and somehow you get put in the middle and you advocate and you step in and you protect them. And then guess what they're doing? They're back in that person's bed next week. And now you feel like an idiot. Like, damn, I should have just stayed out of it. And that's the type of vibe I get here. They should have just stayed out of it. But on the other end, I guess you have to protect your investment. But if they weren't famous, it feels like it just needs to play out the way it's supposed to play out. Or like I said, it's always going to be that lingering question, thought, or whatever in the back of your mind. Like, what if? Okay. It's possible that maybe these two really didn't get much closure. Okay. Because like I said, remember I said before, they may fight, and to them, it may be like healthy, or somebody's telling them that it's healthy, but it's absolutely not healthy. To demean or belittle or do all that extra stuff whenever you're in the midst of an argument is not good. And like I said, hopefully somebody wasn't doing certain things during sex as a way, like I said before, hopefully they're not like, talking very demeaning or belittling during sex, and they're using sex as an excuse, but really and truthfully, they want to say that shit to you while we're sitting on the couch. I hope not. Or, I had a thought, but I'm not going to say that because that would just be wrong. Anyway, where are we going next? Oh yes, let's take a look. And Saturn is just making nothing but squares. What a tough relationship, to be honest. It's very tough. And you know what? This may even, well, I wouldn't say that. I don't know. For some reason, the question of sexuality popped up in my head when it pertains to this, but I think that could simply just be because of an issue with the power dynamics. You know what I'm saying? Where someone starts to, maybe it was him, maybe he starts to question himself, like, am I the man? And hopefully that's not where the, alleged assault or abuse comes into play, because you're trying to prove I am the man. I can do this. I can't do that. You can't talk to me that way. But this person, but it could just be because of insecurity, because this person is possibly making you feel strong, or you just feeling weak in a way because this person may be stronger, however it was. Okay. Anyway, where was I going? Aquarius, Saturn. Let's take a look. 25 degrees of Aquarius, Saturn. Let's see. Here we go. Once I find it, it's Capricorn. Okay, so 25th degree. Look at this. Astrology, a linkage to alcoholism, chaotic, confused, blinding. Remember exactly what I said. You have to allow this. You have to allow the lessons to happen, because this relationship is a blind spot. And in order for you to see the blind spot, you got to let certain shit transpire. You don't want to. Again, like I said with the example, you try to step in and help your friend, but they turn around and they go back. You have to let their ass hit the deck. You got to let them hit it, because otherwise they'll never see it. Now, I don't know if that happened in this particular connection. If it didn't, then that makes sense. While there's always this lingering, or there may always be a lingering energy between them, or the energy lingered for so long because of that. You're not allowing certain things to transpire so that you can see this for what it is. And I think that's what the situation is. It comes down to not seeing the other person for who they truly are. You want them to be something else, and you can't fathom the fact that this person may be a complete shit fire. You can't accept that in your mind, because you're just going back to how you feel. I feel. You're just going back to how it felt whenever you guys first met, because you fell in love and stuff like that. And I'm not going to necessarily say it was lust like Miley and Liam, but this truly just feels like first love vibes to me. But it's not the love that you're looking for. Yes, you fell in love for the first time, and yes, it's hard. We've all been there, that first love, and it's hard for you to let go. But you realize as you get older, like, wow, okay, I can see how this may have been not right, the right one, okay? So, and that may be what it comes to with these two. As they get older, they start to realize, like, whoa, okay, that makes sense why this didn't necessarily go the way it needed to, because there was no growth. I was blinded by your beauty or who you are. I was blinded by the money. I was blinded by maybe the influence. I was blinded by, being caught up in what everybody else sees. Oh, you're so beautiful. You're such a beautiful couple. You're such a beautiful couple. That's all fine and dandy. You could be a beautiful couple, but is it also beautiful behind closed doors? No. So, that's an issue. But yes, in terms of their destiny, yeah, look, and I talked about it before in her chart, but it's just maybe too much partying, maybe too many, maybe too many drugs, maybe too many bad influences. But I already talked about that anyway. That played a part here as well. It's almost like they damaged each other in a way, but you also know how sometimes you push so much, or like I said, even if you're a friend, you push so much for your friend and the other person not to be together. It just brings them closer together, more self-destructive. Here's why I said you gotta take hands off. And if you would just allow this to flow unnaturally, I think this would have been completely different. Not saying they would have stayed together. I think the walking away would have been better in terms of, for them as people. But I already said before, a lot of experimentation, in my opinion. Like I said, maybe a lot of drugs, possibly a lot of sex, because, their fifth house Lord is also making aspects to 3 planets in the 8th. So probably a lot of sex, who knows, partners, older people, a lot of shit that would probably blow your mind if we actually knew. Okay. Who knows? Executives, music producers. I mean, buck wild. Okay. Not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right, but this feels like 2 people coming together during a period of time where they don't have a damn clue who they are, and they're too stuck on trying to prove something to people, and you just self-destruct, unfortunately. And again, that further goes to my point of why I can see why, I guess Justin went with Haley, or I still feel like those 2 were set up, but that's my opinion. But whoever's, I guess, set them up, was like, okay, you need some type of balance. Normalcy, maybe, but it's not really normal because she's kind of famous, but not really, but whatever. What is it? Oh, 7th house. Friends? Oh, intimate or enemies? I don't think they're enemies. They have their 7th house Lord at home. But again, Mars is on an angle. Okay. But let's take a look at this degree of Mars. 11 degrees Aries. Aries is on Aquarius degree. Lord. Aries, 11 degrees. Okay, so spiritual, intuitive, sacred selfishness, parental instinct. It gets so out of hand. Remember, I said it before. I don't know who it was, where I said it's almost like one day you wake up and you're just annoyed with the other person. It's starting to feel more like I'm having to take care of you, or I'm having to tend to you like you're my child. I'm having to make sure you don't pass out. I'm having to make sure you don't swallow your vomit. I'm having to make sure you take a bath. I'm having to make sure you wash your face, brush your teeth, do your hair. But, this is stuff that happens over time. Like I said, to me, I mean, this just feels like one of that first real, shot at the heart that you have that just takes you down through there. That's my opinion.